expression into the variable. Okay, another thing that can make up a statement is a method call. So here's some examples. We saw both of these last week. This is a method call to the method println, and the next one is a method call that is to the method showMessageDialog. So what's the general form of a method call? Yeah. So the general form is a method name. We'll see the method name can either be the name of the method as in showMessageDialog, but more often it's got to be the class followed by a dot, followed by the name of the method in that class. Just disambiguous. Of course, you could have showMessageDialog in multiple classes. You say which class provides the method you want to call. Then in parentheses, you have expressions separated by commas. Now, when Java sees something like this, what does it do? It's the thing that it does. What you asked me to do. Yes? Well, let's get back. What does it do with the expressions method? Yeah. Say again. No, it does not plug the expressions into the method. It does something to them. What does Java do with those expressions before it even gets around to the method? Yeah. No, it doesn't assign them variables yet. What does it do? Yeah. It evaluates the expression. That's the only thing it can do. Expressions are evaluated. So it evaluates the variables. Evaluates the expressions. And let's say there were, like up there, let's call the showMessageDialog. There's one expression, so it evaluates it, and it gets the string. The answer is 10, let's say. So it evaluates that expression to get that string. Then it gives that string to the method. It doesn't give the expression to the method. It gives the string, it gives the value of the expression to the method. And then the method takes in those inputs and does its thing. And we'll look at expressions in more detail today. But what happens when you, in that first example, what is it that happens? Remember, something happens when you evaluate that statement. What happens when you evaluate that statement? Don't be afraid, it's not a hard question. Yeah. Right, hello is printed to the console. And what happens when the second method is evaluated? Yes? Right, dialog pops up with the string in it, showing what the value is. Yeah? Well, he's asking a question about, sort of an advanced question about methods. Let's wait till we look at simple examples before he asks a question like that. Yeah?
In Zyblix, a lot of methods weren't formatted with periods like these. What the naming conventions for that?
Well, when did you do the Zybook?
Yesterday.
Okay. We'll talk, okay, we'll talk. The reason I ask is there are two kinds of methods, static ones and non-static ones. And for a little bit last week, the wrong version of the sections we're in, they were talking about non-static methods. We're talking about static methods today, and I think it'll answer both of the questions. So, suppose we put, our method was not system.out.println hello, that wasn't a method call. Suppose it was math.square root of 7. What would that statement do? You said it would return the value, but no. Well, yes, it would cause the square root of 7 to be computed, and then that number would be thrown away. So it doesn't make sense. Would it make sense to have a statement that was just 2 plus 2, semicolon? You're adding 2 and 2, but you're not doing anything with the answer, and so the statement doesn't do anything in that case. It just creates a number that gets thrown away. Same thing with a method call. The only method calls that make sense to use as statements are ones that have some side effect, like printing or displaying. Yes? No, 2 plus 2 semicolon wouldn't compile because the compiler can tell that there's no side effect. Okay, so we're going to look at lots of examples of this today. Because you also use method calls in expressions. There you care about the value. When you use a method call as a statement, you just care about the side effect. Let me show you some examples of statements. What kind of statement is that? We looked at three. We've got declarations, assignments, and method calls. Yes? That's an assignment. It's declaring a variable called height. What's that? Not an assignment. How do you know it's not an assignment? Yeah. Right, it starts with a declaration. It's declaring a variable weight, initializing it. So that's a declaration. What's that? Declaration or assignment? It's a declaration. It starts with a type. If it says type name, variable name equals, it's a declaration. If it just says variable name equals, it's an assignment. The difference is important. Yeah. Did I say it was an assignment? That's why you're all saying assignment. Okay, let me back up. All three are declarations. Sorry. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So we've got three declarations. Another declaration, right? Another declaration. Kind of boring, another declaration. Another declaration. Something different finally. What's that? That's a method call, and it has the side effect of displaying something to the user. That's why we're making a method call. Okay, so those are all examples of statements. And in fact, these are statements that solve a particular problem. So let's look at the problem. Here we see those same 8 statements, but they're packed inside of a method. And remember, what has the side effect of displaying something to the user? That's why we're making a method. That particular. Okay, so those are all examples of statements. And in fact, these are statements that solve a particular problem. So let's look at the problem. Here we see those same 8 statements, but they're packed inside of a method. And remember, what has the side effect of displaying something to the user? That's why we're making a method. That particular. Okay, so those are all examples of statements. And in fact, these are statements that solve a particular problem. So let's look at the problem. Here we see those same 8 statements, but they're packed inside of a method. And remember, what has the side effect of displaying something to the user? That's why we're making a method. That particular. Okay, so those are all examples of statements. And in fact, these are statements that solve a particular problem. So let's look at the problem. Here we see those same 8 statements. They're packed inside of a method. And remember, what has the side effect of displaying something to the user? That's why we're making a method. That particular. Okay, so those are all examples of statements. And in fact, these are statements that solve a particular problem. Sentences one after the other until it gets to the end, and then the program is over because that was the main method it just ended. So it's going to display an input dialog to get a height in inches. It's going to display an input dialog to get a weight in pounds. It's going to convert the height into from a string form into a number. Same thing for the weight. It's going to convert to meters and kilograms. It's going to compute the BMI, body mass index. And it's going to show the body mass index. So those are 8 steps that we're using to run the program. Now, would it matter if we rearrange the statements? I've got some votes for yes. Actually, it's more nuanced than that. Is there a way to rearrange these statements such that the program does the same thing as far as the user is concerned? Yeah. We could take these two statements and change their order. It doesn't matter whether you convert to meters first or to kilograms first. If we took this statement here and put it before those two, Java complains. Now, we can see what it's complaining about, but what is it it's complaining about? Yeah. Right, we're trying to make use of kilos and meters before they've been declared. Order matters in that case. And if we look and see what Java has in mind here, we hover the mouse over the red line and it says kilos cannot be resolved to a variable. So it can't look ahead to the variable declaration. It only wants to look back inside. The method doesn't find it, so it's complaining. So the order matters. Okay? Well, who knows what parse double does? It says integer.parse double. Notice we're calling, how many method calls are there inside of the main? How many places do you see method calls? I see 5, and in each case it's the name of the class, it's a dot, and then the name of the method we want to call. So we want to call the show input dialog from dialogs. We want to call parse double from the double class. So what does parse double do? All the way in the back. All right. It does something that's really not very interesting to you. It takes the string that the user entered and converts it to a double, or at least tries to. It may not be a numeric string. Now, if you don't remember that, you can just hover the mouse over it, and you see returns a new double initialized to the value represented by the specified string. This is called, this is one example of what's called Intellisense. So you can hover the mouse over methods and see, that says brings up a dialog that prompts the user for input. And if you can't remember a method name, but you manage to remember the class it's in, you can say dialogs dot. Okay, took a while. I typed control space to make it do it. Often it just pops it up anyway. It shows me, it suggests what I can type next. Show input dialog, show message dialog. So I make a lot of use of Intellisense, and you should too. You don't remember how to spell show input dialog? We'll just double click there and it'll stick it in for you and remind you to put the prompt right there. Good stuff. Okay. So there's a main method. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to take a string and turn it into an integer, it turns out there's a method called integer.parseInt. And since I can't remember, I would just type integer dot and see. Yeah?
Where is double parse double?
It's, okay, the double class comes with Java. Yeah. Now, typically when you use a class in a program, you need to import it above. So you see up here, I imported cs14lib.dialogs, but I did not import the double class. The double class is called, I just happen to know this, java.lang.double. Okay? It just turns out that there's the classes in java.lang.double are so useful and are used in so many programs that it's automatically imported, so you don't have to do it explicitly. Any other class you want to use, you need to import up there, say which one you're using. There are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of classes in the Java library. We'll use a tiny fraction, but you'll learn about some useful ones. Yeah.
How come some of them are automatically imported, but not all of them?
All the ones in java.lang are automatically imported. The reason they're all not imported is there are just too many. It would make there'd be naming conflicts because there'd be classes with the same name in two different places, and it's sort of a compromise. Okay, now the thing is though, let's say you forgot. In fact, I don't usually type an import statement. Instead, I just use dialogues, and it's complaining now because it doesn't know which dialogue class you mean. But if you hover the mouse, it will say, here's some suggestions. The first one says, import dialogues from CS14 lib. So I just click that, and it shows up again. So you can get Eclipse to write part of your code for you. You have to be a little bit careful because it may be the class you're using exists in a couple different places. You've got to make sure you're picking the right one. So don't just click at the first solution. It may not have a good solution, but make sure you're clicking the right one. Okay, now, let's suppose we're in the business of selling useful static methods. And this is one of our best sellers. We sell this thing. But our customers start saying, you know, this is a nice method, this main method. But it's a little too constraining because we've got no choice when we use this method. It's going to ask for the input from an input dialog, and it's going to display it in a message dialog. And I would rather have it take the input from the keyboard and display the answer to the console. Or I'd rather take the input from a little box in a bigger graphical user interface. So they want to separate how the information gets from the user from how we calculate the body mass index. So how can we change things here so that we've got sort of a more reusable piece of code that can be used in more contexts? What do you think? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So we said we need to create a method. So the idea is when you write programs, most of your time is going to be spent creating methods and classes, helpers. You're creating parts. So programs are built out of parts, and before you make the program, you got to build the parts. So we might decide, you know, I would really like a method. I really wish, you say to yourself, I really wish that there were a method that would take inches and pounds as input and produce body mass index as a result. And I call this principle of wishful thinking. You decide, you know, my life would really be easier if the Java library had a method called BMI, takes two doubles as parameters and returns a double as its result. And then we just call the method. And we can call it from different contexts. See? Now, when you wish for something in the Java library, sometimes your wish comes true immediately. You find out, it's already in the library. I wish there were a method to compute square roots. I wish there were a method to do exponentiation. I wish there were a method to convert strings into doubles. In each case, your wish comes true. That part is in the library. But alas, there is no BMI calculation method in the Java library. Now, why is it? It's not a hard method. Are the folks who wrote Java just that short-sighted that they left the BMI method out? How could they do such? What's going on? Yeah.
It's not very useful to the majority of programmers.
Right. He said it's not very useful to the majority of programmers. There are lots of things you can imagine in the library. You can't put everything under the sun. So you try to put things that are as generally useful as possible. So we're going to have to create that part ourselves. So let me show you how to do that. First thing we have to do is pick a name for our method. Well, I'm going to call it BMI. We have to decide what it's going to take as parameters and what it's going to produce as a result. So what type of thing is it going to give back? When we calculate the BMI, well, first of all, what are we given? What are we operating on to compute the BMI? Two doubles. Let's say we're given the height in inches, let's say the height in inches and the weight in pounds. Come in. And then as a result, we're going to give back the BMI, which is a double itself. So what we do is we do it this way. A type name goes right before the method name, and that's the type of thing the method returns. It's kind of backwards. So this says BMI will produce a double as a result. And then in parentheses after it, you say, what does it take when you call it? What do you have to pass it? Okay. So this says BMI is a method that takes in two doubles as input and produces a double as a result. Now, In front of it all, you've got to say public static, just because. There's no point in explaining what public and static mean until we get to methods that are either not public or not static. Once there's a distinction, once I can compare it to something else, we can talk about it. But for now, you just say, okay, I'll put public static in just because that's what Joe said to do. Yeah. You put a pair of braces, and inside the braces come the statements to do the calculation. Right now, I don't know exactly what statements to use, but it's apparent that Java is not happy here. What's it not happy about? Yeah. No, I'm not missing a semicolon. Semicolon, you don't put a semicolon at the end of every line, just at the end of some statements. Yeah. Yeah, he's saying there's no return statement. So, he's programmed a bit before. Basically, that's what it's saying. The method must return a result in type double. We've got to write code that ends in it returning the answer. And so what you can do to at least calm down Java so you can calm down Eclipse so you can make some progress is just stick, that's a return, that's the statement that says in the method and return 0 is the answer. So if you call this method, no matter what you give it as input, it's going to return 0 as the answer. Yes?
When you're saying giving the name of the method, the type of the method, that's only what's coming out of the method. It's not what's going into it, right? Because you got double in the method. That's not what the double BMI means.
Right. No, BMI is the name of the method. Double is what's returned.
That's just the return. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with what goes in.
This is what goes in. Yeah. It's necessary to write the double. Yeah. We could write a method that takes a string and a double, or a string and a char, or whatever. But only one type of thing can come out. Only one out. Okay. There we have our BMI. Now, suppose BMI, we implemented it correctly. How can we use it in this main method to simplify our lives? I think we can get rid of that stuff. How could we change this method just by changing, right now it's complaining because BMI isn't declared. How could we arrange for this to work just by modifying the show message dialog? So let's see what we're doing. We are interacting with the user, converting their input into numbers. Then we're calling the BMI method and giving it some number of inches and some number of pounds, and it's producing as a result the value of that BMI expression right there. That method call is going to be the body mass index, the double that needs to be printed out. So we append the double that's returned to BMI is, and it's displayed. And now we can use this BMI method all over the place. From other mains or other programs. So it's reusable now. Yeah?
Is it still considered good style to have a method call inside of a method call? Like, is that...
Yeah, method call inside of a method call is perfectly normal, perfectly usual. I mean, if it bugs you a little bit, you could do something like this. You could replace this with a variable, and then you could say, no, equals BMI of inches and pounds. But I just wanted to show you something a little bit different. So what would happen if I ran this program now? I run it, I enter a height in inches, weight in pounds, and I get back 0 as my answer. Because that's all the method is capable of doing is returning 0 as its answer. So yeah. Say that again. Yeah.
Repeat.
He's saying, is it okay? You notice I'm calling BMI, but it's not declared until later. With method declarations, that's okay. What's also missing you might have expected to see in front of the BMI class name. Why didn't I have to write static demo.bmi? BMI is declared in a class called static demo. Yeah. Yeah, if you're inside a class, you don't have to import it into yourself. You can automatically use it without qualification. That's just a nice shortcut that we got. Okay, what's he going to take to complete this method so it returns the right thing? We've got to do some calculation inside of the BMI method using the height and the weight. And fortunately, I copied these statements right out of the method above. They don't quite work, but at least it's a start. So what's wrong here? It says meters gets inches times the conversion factor. Why is inches underlined? Yeah. It's not declared in the method. It's declared in the main method, but we can't see into there. We're restricted. You can't look at another method for a variable. So what should we call this thing besides inches? We want this to be the height in inches. Where do we get the value of inches? It's right there. Now we could decide, do you want to call this inches or that? Let's just do it this way. They have to match up. So when the method is called, up above, BMI inches and pounds, whatever number inches has is stored in the height. Whatever number pounds contains is stored in the weight, and then we execute the method. So the information comes, the initial values of height and weight come from right here. Okay? Why is Eclipse still complaining? Yeah. Right. We have to return a double. Our last thing we have to do is tell it what is the answer. And the way you do that is with the return statement, which is very simple. It's return followed by an expression. So what is an expression, which is the thing we want to return as our answer? So we have directions for computing the BMI, and then we return it as our answer. Now, if I were writing this program, I probably would take a shortcut, and I'd do something like this. That just says return the result of dividing kilos by meters times meters. Okay. Now it actually works. Yeah. Okay, ask about if we declared BMI there. No, and the answer is meters, kilos, or BMI if we declared it in here cannot be used outside of the method. They're called local variables. They're not for use anywhere else in the program. They just make sense only inside of BMI. So BMI to the outside user is a black box. You feed in two doubles, you get out the body mass index. So if we run this one and put in 72 and the 160 pounds that I was when I was 18, and we get 21.7 as a BMI, which is a good one. So now we got it working right. Yeah.
In the BMI method, height and weight aren't declared. Why is it working?
Okay, he said in the BMI method, height and weight aren't declared. But I disagree.
Are they declared in the track?
Right, they're not local variables. They're called formal parameters. They're the parameters to the method, so they're declared in the parentheses up there.
Okay.
Now, when you declare meters, it's easy to see where the initial value of meters come from. And when you declare kilos, you can see what its initial value is. Where does the initial value of height come from? So how does height get a value? Yeah. No, from right here. So whenever you call BMI, you're giving two expressions. And the first expression's value is used to initialize height, and the second one is used to initialize weight. Then the method runs. Yeah? Start with your question. Okay. Okay, so what he observed is originally, even though I was supposed to return a double, I returned an int, namely 0. And the short answer is, if Java wants a double and you give it an int, it doesn't care. It just converts it to a double. It will always convert to a double. It won't do the opposite direction. Because if a double is 3.5, there's no good way to convert it. And your question?
Where does this dialogue type come from? Because it's not working on mine.
Okay, so she's asking, where's the dialogues class coming from? It comes from the CS1410 library, which I have right here in my project. So if you create an empty Java project in Eclipse, you won't have that library.
Yeah, I was having a hard time figuring out how to create one that was in 1410.
Okay, if you want to have a class, if you want it to start out with the CS1410 library, you use the CPM. Create new Canvas project. 2018, 1410, and you pick a blank project. And then you get a blank project that contains two things. It contains the formatting standards I want you to follow, and it contains the library. Just create it using Eclipse's method of creating a Java project. You won't have the library. Yeah? Okay, I didn't catch the last bit of it. Yeah. No. This does something different from system.out.println.
Repeat.
Okay? He's asking, is dialogs.showMessageDialog the same as system.out.println? System.out.println will print to the console, which is right down here in Eclipse. Prints to your screen. This thing brings up a dialog box and displays it. Yeah? Well, let's say you wanted to have \n, that's called the new line character. So if I run the program this way, it says height in inches, because I told it to put a new line in. And of course, my program isn't very friendly. It really can't cancel out of it. Okay, now, we're not done yet. There's something really, really, really crucial that we've left out. I'll let you wonder about what that is for the next few minutes while we take a break.
Okay, you're doing great. Thank you. I have a question.
Okay.
What do I do
Okay, let's get started again. Okay, so, I don't know, I want to see what show input dialog does. Great, brings up a dialog that prompts user for input. And I wonder what parse double does. Okay, I wonder what BMI does. Not so useful. What's deficient about our BMI method? Yeah, go ahead. Right. You're not through writing a method or a class until you add a Java comment that explains what it does from the point of view of a user, not from the point of view of a program. You need to tell potential users what it does. So to write a Java comment, just right before the method, do /** return, and it provides stuff to fill in. My habit is just to say what it does and not spell it out with all these tags, although we feel differently. What can we say about BMI? What does it do? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to say it this way: computes BMI given height in inches and weight in pounds. Now if I hover the mouse, you see. So that's why it's called Java.comment, because it shows up as documentation in Intellisense. Absolutely crucial, and that's a place we love to take points off, methods that aren't documented. Now, you might say, someone should be able to use this just by saying it's called BMI and it takes height and weight as parameters. Why do we have to spell it out for the user? Well, why indeed? Go ahead.
Just in case they don't understand what BMI stands for.
Well, actually, we didn't help them there. We didn't say what BMI meant. So we're sort of assuming they know what BMI means. That's not quite it. Yeah? Right. Without that comment, they might enter the height in feet, the weight in grams. How are they to know? Doesn't say anywhere in the program. Now you might say, they can read and see the conversion factors and tell what's going on. So how do we answer that? How do we say, this is just a crutch? The user ought to be able to figure it out. Yeah?
They shouldn't have to know.
Right. The point of documentation is the user of your code should not have to read the code. They should just have to read the Java doc and the method header. So this part of the method declaration is called the method header. And it contains information like the name of the method and the types of the parameters and the return type of the method that are useful. And this encapsulates what it does from the point of view of the user. Okay? And it takes a while to get used to writing good comments like that, but they're absolutely essential. Yeah? You pair a Java comment to the method just by putting it right above the method. And you notice the class also has a comment up above. Okay? So Java those doc comments are really important. Now, let's suppose you wanted to test this in JShell. So I'm going to right-click on my project. I'm going to pick Launch JShell. And JShell starts down here at the bottom. So if I want to use that class, what do you suppose I have to do first? I don't have to compile it. I have to import it. So let's see, my package name is CS1410. So I have to say import, the full name of the class is CS1410 dot static demo dot star. That says give me all the classes in static. So a shortcut. I'll take that back. I just care about importing static demo, so I'll do that. So I'll do the import. Now, before class, I was trying to modify the CPM so that it automatically imported any packages. So you can just use any classes, so you can use the classes directly. wasn't quite working. I'll try to get that going. Once you've imported it, now let's call BMI. How would we do that? How do you call a method? Yeah.
You have to use static demo.bmi.
Yeah, it turns out that we're not in the same class as BMI, so we have to say static demo.bmi, and then we give it 72 and 160. It calls it and gives us the answer. So your next assignment will be you'll be implementing a whole bunch of static methods that I tell you to implement. And an easy way to play around with them is from JShell. Another way to play around with them is to write a main method that uses them, but this is a lot simpler. Okay? Okay, so yeah.
I'm just curious why it works that way. Is JShell like separate from the Eclipse environment that you're running?
Let's talk about JShell outside of class, how it works. Let's write some more methods. I have a list of here that some I thought we might could do. Let's do average. That looks pretty easy. I want something that'll take, I want to be able to average three things. I want to be able to do something like this. I want to be able to say static demo average 1.2, 3.6, 8.1, 8.2, whatever, and get back their average. I want the value of that expression to be the average of those two numbers. So I need to write a method here to do that. So let's see how to do it. What's the first thing we have to decide? Yeah. The name of the method. Might as well call it average. Okay. Okay, what else do we have to decide about the average? About the method? Yep.
You have to decide if you can return anything.
Okay, is it going to return something? Yeah, it's going to return a double. Now, sometimes you write methods that don't return anything. In those cases, you write a void method that says it does not return anything. We really haven't seen one yet. This one returns a double. We have to say what parameters it takes. How many parameters is this average method going to take? I already, in my example down here, I had to take 3 methods. So we're going to give, it's going to take 3 methods. Yeah, three parameters.
Is there a way to make it so that it has like a variable amount of parameters depending on how many
Yeah, there is a way to have it take a variable number of parameters, but that's a lesson for another day. So the three parameters it takes are all doubles. So we could call them like double 1, double 2, double 3. For my money, that's no better than just calling them X, Y, and Z. The numbers don't have any particular property other than that they're numbers. It's hard to think of a descriptive name. So I just go for X, Y, and Z. Now, on the other hand, for the BMI method, I would not call them, saying double X and double Y up here in the declaration of BMI would be a terrible idea. Because, we want to communicate with the name of the parameter that we expect a height there. In fact, if we were more careful, we might change the name of this parameter to height in inches, just to drive home the fact, and weight in pounds. Down here, X, Y, and Z have no properties except they're just arbitrary numbers. So I'll just do like I do in the math book and call them X, Y, and Z. I don't know how we're going to do this yet, so I'm just going to say return 0 just to make Eclipse happy. And before we try to implement the method, we need to give some JavaDoc that says what it does. Don't. So the idea is that instead of giving the JavaDoc at the end, I see a lot of students do this. They do their entire assignment, they go, oh, I'm going to lose points if I don't put the JavaDoc in. So you click put the JavaDoc. Do the JavaDoc before you write the method, because if you don't know what the method's supposed to do, how are you going to implement it? Okay? Well, very succinctly, what do we want average to do? How can you say what it is average does? Yeah? Okay, I would put it this way. She said calculate the average of 3 doubles, which is fine. But I like to refer to the parameter names. So and I like to say rather than calculate, returns. So I'm going to say returns the average of what? X, Y, and Z. Referring to the names down below. Boom. Okay. This is just a one-line method. an expression right after that return whose value is the average of x, y, and z? What's an expression whose value is the average of x, y, and z? Yeah.
X plus y plus z divided by 3.
Okay, so x plus y plus z is the sum divided by 3. Now that won't quite work because Java likes to do divisions before it does additions. And so it would divide z by 3 and then add x and y. So we need to use parentheses to tell it to group that way. And then it looks a little cramped to me, so I'm going to do Control-Shift-F to reformat it. Drives me nuts when students come to ask me questions about their programs and it's not properly formatted. It's so simple to do. Just Control-Shift-F every now and then. Keep your program in shape. Yeah? Yeah, so you notice I didn't, you can if you wish. You can have at param, at x, or at param x, at param y. You put a definition of what x and y are in Z. I'm not sure what I would say here. X is a number, y is another number. So my style is just to include everything in the written comment without the tags. Other people don't do that, and that's fine too. Do it whichever way you like. Yeah. Why don't we have public static here? What is the deep reason why it doesn't say public static? Because I forgot. Yeah. Right. Now, let's go and experiment with this down in JShell. Now, here's the problem. The class has changed, and we're going to have to restart JShell. I'm going to at least copy that. And I'm going to go restart JShell. I'm going to paste that import back in so we don't have to do that. Now let's just try it out. So static demo, average. If you're going to test it out, you might as well use numbers where you know what the answer is, right? So let's do 1, 3, and 5. And those are ints. It's supposed to be doubles, but remember, it's forgiving. It'll turn those ints into doubles. So what do you expect to see it display as the result of that? 3. Now, let me show you something that can go wrong. So I'm going to come up here and change the program by taking out static. I'm going to rerun JShell. I'm going to paste. And I'm doing this instead of typing Control-V because JShell does shift insert instead of Control-V. And now I'm going to call static demo dot average. Error. Non-static method cannot be referenced from a static context. All right, so if you see that, what you should take away from it is blah, 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 static. And you go, oh yes, I forgot to declare it static. So you'll do that again and again, especially when you start writing methods that aren't static. And you call static methods in a different way than you call non-static methods. Here we have a non-static method we're trying to call as if it were static. That's all that means. So if you see that, you probably forgot to declare something static. Okay, so there again, we have a nice standalone thing that can compute the average of 3 things. Yes?
I'm not sure we can mean except what's not static about the way you put it in.
Well, before it didn't say static. This error message was generated when it didn't say static. It said public average. It didn't say public static average. I changed it, and then I changed it back. Okay? You'll see all kinds of weird errors that you don't see in class because you make mistakes I don't make. And I try to make them on purpose, but I'm just too good at it. Okay, let's write another one. The way you learn to do something is by doing it a lot. So let's pick another one. Let's do this one here. My idea here is I don't want to have to show an input dialog, get a string back, and then convert the string to a double. I would like a version of show input dialog that gives me back a double. Does the conversion for me. Make my program a lot simpler. Okay? So this is sort of what I'd like to be able to do. I'd like to be able to say double inches equals that. Double pounds equals that. And then get rid of this stuff. Double, let's say, paste it on there. Okay, rather than getting a string back and converting it to a double, I want the method to convert it for me. Now, why isn't it working here? Yes?
There's still the dialog type.
Right, this thing here returns a string. It says type mismatch, cannot convert from string to double. It can't take the string this thing's returning and storing it there. So I want a new method called show double input dialog and show double input dialog. And it won't be in the dialogs class because I can't change that. It will be in this class. I want to take care of the conversion as well. So I want to implement show double input dialog to save me some work every time I need to get a double from the user. No? We're wishing for it. It doesn't exist. How do we make it come true? We got to make it so, as John says. So we put the name of the method, which is, that. So what we want this thing to do is to bring up an input dialog, read the string in, convert it to a double, return the double. So what's the return type of the method? Yeah, it's going to return a double. What's it going to take as a parameter? Looks like it's going to take the string that needs to be displayed in the dialog. Right? So I'll call that, it takes a string as a parameter. And we'll say it's the message to the user, so I'll call it message. And then it's supposed to do something and then return a double. And until we figure out how to do that, we'll just say return 0. And we need to remember to put public static just for calls. Okay. What's the job about? What does this method do? Can we succinctly say what it returns, what it does? Yes? Okay, so I'll say it this way. Prompts user or input using the message and returns double entered by something like that. Very good. So now we've nailed down what it's supposed to do. We come up here and hover the mouse. We see, yes, our Java doc shows up. We see what's going on. Shoot, I don't know how to, I don't know how do I make a dialog box? How can I possibly use this? What do you think? How are we going to make a message, a dialog here? Yeah?
Double, dialog, input.
Yeah, we know. We got a method that'll make a dialog box. We'll just call dialogs.show input dialog. Now, that'll make a dialog box come up. What message should we display when it comes up? We're given the message to display. So how can we take this message here and make it show up when this dialog box is displayed? You just say message right there. Now, that's going to make a dialog box come up. What result will come out of this? What will come out of show input dialog? Yeah, it returns a string.
Strong.
Trying to think what to call this. Yes, we can call it. Yes, he's kind of weird. I'll call it input. Probably not even better than yes. It's pretty generic. Okay, but okay, we've solved our problem. We've used an existing method to display a dialog box and get a string, but we got to return a double. We can't return the string. So what do we return? How do we turn this input thing used by the iter into a double? Yeah. Right, we have a method. Voila. Right, so now we have a handy method that you give it a string, it will display that to the user, wait till the user types something in, it will convert what they typed into a double and return it. So we don't have to convert to double every time we call show input dialog. We just call show double input dialog and be done with it. Great. Let's test it out. That imports every class in CS14. Okay? So let's try this out. Show, I'm going to hit tab here and it'll, oops, I need to say static. You do static demo dot, and now in JShell, if you type tab, it will suggest possible completions. So I'm going to type SH and hit it again. Good, it's giving me the rest of that. And if I hit tab and hit tab again, it's supposed to display the Java doc or something waiting here. Let's just put hello here. So what do we expect to see happen when I hit return? We're calling that method. What do you expect to see happen? Yeah.
Dialog box will appear that says hello.
Okay. So a dialog box will appear, but unfortunately, when you do it from JShell, it appears somewhere down here at the bottom. We're going to enter a number in it, like 57.24, and we say OK. Now we got to go dig up JShell again. And what came back was a number fit 567.24. Because what happened was, hello was entered. Hello was, when this method ran, hello was stored in that variable. Then, on this line, hello, not hello, the number I entered was stored there. That number was converted to a double and returned. So now this method up here is now much simpler. It says, okay, let's go get a double, let's get another double, and then let's display the result of converting it to a BMI. So over the course of the last hour or so, our main method has gotten a lot simpler. It used to be 8 statements, now it's just 3. Where did all the statements go? How do we get rid of statements? Yeah.
Put them in the method.
Right, we created other methods. Here's BMI, which has 3 statements. Here is show double input dialog, which contains 2. And we're not, we don't say 8 statements bad, 3 statements good. But what is better about this program now than before? Just being a program critic. Yeah. It's easier for us to read, certainly. Because in the main just contains code that's needed to get input and display a result. The main doesn't know anything about BMI calculations. That's in a method called BMI. The main doesn't know anything about converting input to double. That's in the method show double input dialog. So main is a lot cleaner. What's the other advantage of breaking it up into small methods? Yeah. Okay. So I was able to document each piece so that you don't have to read the code to understand what the method does. You can just look at the documentation. What's another advantage? Yeah. You can use, the bottom line is, once you've created those methods, you don't have to create them again. You can use them elsewhere. You could copy and paste them into your code, or if you want to use them, you could just put this class into your program and use them from the class. Okay? So a slide that I didn't show said that 90% of General Motors' budget goes into buying parts. Okay, so 90% of what you pay for a car goes to the parts suppliers. Same way in software. It's all about building parts. You don't have million-line programs that are just one method long. You have lots and lots of methods that are short and easy to understand. That's a theme we'll see also. So we'll end here, and then we'll get to work editing the video.